Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Danni McCormack, Invicta FC #1 strawweight contender, Invicta FC title challenger, Danni McCormack, as she's going to have a chat with me today before she throws herself into the depths of her title camp, I guess it is. We could label it that, Danni. Thanks for taking the time to speak with me today. And I guess, you know, you were saying during the week your camp has already started for this fight with Valesca Machado.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Ian. I appreciate it. Yeah, so I guess I knew, well, I had a fair idea. I had a good chance of getting the title shot a couple of weeks ago. Well, from November, straight after the fight in November, I went straight up to Shannon Knapp and said to her, can I have the title shot now after that performance? And she said, I can't see why not. And then Alan continued to ask her around the same time too, and she gave him a similar answer. So you know, we kind of knew from November that this was very likely to happen. And then my manager told me maybe 2 weeks ago to get into camp and start getting ready, that their next show would be the middle of March, and the likelihood of me fighting for the title against Valesca would be very likely, but not confirmed. So once I got that notice, I just went straight into camp then. And then it was, I suppose, 10 days ago now or something that I actually got offered the fight. So yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, nice. It must have been a great feeling. And you know, you kind of answered the first question I had. It was like, you know, obviously with signing Invicta, that was the ultimate goal and everything like that. But there was no like real plan set in place. There was no conversations had before you even had your last fight with Maria. It was just go out there, perform, get the job done, and then stake your claim after that. And that's kind of what happened, really, is it?
Yeah. So like when I got offered the contract with Invicta, I suppose like the end of September, early October, something like that, I straight away had my sights set on the title. And I think it was only like a week after I got matched, my manager said, they want to know, do you want to be the reserve for the tournament? And I was like, absolutely. And then I was getting all excited, thinking if anything happens, I could get my shot there. And I suppose then coming closer to the fight, and when I got there during fight week and everyone was making weight easily and they all were coming out of the fights unscathed on the night, you know, I knew I wasn't going to get jumped in. So it just gave me extra motivation to, you know, perform and just show who I am. And that's what I did. And as soon as the fight was over, I was like, you know, it's my chance now. I think I had one of the best performances, if not the performance of the night on that night. So I couldn't see who else would be getting it, that it was my time. So yeah, since I spoke to Shannon, then I was, you know, I really, really believed I was getting it.
Yeah, it's great. It's great to see. And you know, I was going to ask you, maybe we will talk about that night at Invicta 50. But before we do that, I'd really like to talk about just the year in 2022 for you, because it was a bit of a roller coaster of emotions for you, really, Danni. You know, the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. Obviously, you know, picking up that defeat against Stephanie Page, and then you're unlucky to drop the decision in your next fight again after that. So you really had to pick yourself up after 2 losses in a row. And, you know, you've spoke fairly candidly with me before and on the L triangle and everything like that, that, you know, you went and did a lot of work and you did a lot of kind of mental training and going and talking to sports psychologists and everything like that. But I mean, you must be really proud of yourself, number one, to have gotten yourself into this position. And I'm sure it doesn't come without a lot of hard work behind the scenes and with a lot of low points behind the scenes as well.
Yeah, so I guess like there's 2 parts to that question. So one is like what went on in 2022, and that, you know, in February I walked out to 11,000 fans, and that was like, I could safely say that was the first time the whole Tree Arena knew who I was, even though that was like my 4th time to do that. The place went crazy, and the minute I stood up on the top of the runway, I was like, oh my God. And it's hard not get overwhelmed. It's hard to explain what that feeling is. It's like an outer body experience and you're trying to stay in control, but it's very, very difficult. And I heard Kenny talking about it after he had his first experience in the 3 Arena. And I know what he means, that when you get in there, it all feels a bit weird. It doesn't feel like the gym. It doesn't feel like any other fight either. So, that night I was fighting a really high level girl who came down from flyweight. And fair play to Jude Samuel, he always brought me the best opponents and kept pushing me. And I'm so glad he got me that fight, because I went in and I was definitely in the fight. I'm not going to use the crowd or anything as an excuse, but I still had a huge rush of adrenaline running through me from the walkout. And, Stephanie Page showed up, some of my defensive errors that I have. And, it was a short night for me, and it was awful. It was devastating, very shocking and traumatic night. So, anyway, after that, it was very easy to pick the pieces up and say, look, I got unlucky. I need to just make sure I'm more careful and have a lot of respect for these girls with a lot of power, especially a girl like that was coming down off flyweight. And we really went to work. But I very quickly signed to fight someone else in Malta. Bellator let me do it within my contract to do that. And that whole camp, it was like, just get back and winning ways. Just get back and winning ways. Once I get back winning, everything else will be sorted. And I didn't get any help, nothing like psychologically, mindset. And from the moment that fight started, it was 15 minutes of hell in my head. I didn't want to be there like 1 second of it. And I even remember my corner saying 3 minutes left. And I was like, what? Like 3 minutes, we're only in the first round.
Oh my goodness, yeah. I mean, talking about the experience you had at Bellator 275 and the crowd was there, it was almost the opposite when you went in and fought Manuela, over at Centurion. It was an away crowd. How was the crowd over there? It was a kind of a completely different setting, where you kind of trying to get yourself adjusted for maybe the same feeling that you felt before the Stephanie Page fight, and then you didn't get that, and then it was kind of just completely opposite kind of a setting really for you.
When I fought in Milan and I fought in Germany, it was the same as the kind of crowd that was in Malta. So in Milan, it was behind closed doors, and in Germany, there was a small home crowd. So I perform really well with small crowds. So it was nothing to do with the crowd or anything like that. I think I had PTSD after what was happened to me in February, and I didn't even notice the crowd in Malta. I just knew that I was in there, and I was having like a meltdown in my head. I was like, what am I doing? I don't even like this. And looking back at the fight, I'm actually pretty proud of myself, because even though I was having these arguments in my head of the nerves and the anxiety, that I still performed really good. And I actually fixed all the mistakes that I had shown in February, that I boxed really well, and I made her miss so much that she completely blackened my arm from constantly hitting my shoulder. So there was really big moments in that fight for me. But after the decision didn't go my way, I felt like I doubly lost. I lost in my head, but then the judges went and gave it to her, which I was disappointed with, because I thought I had done enough to get the win.
I thought you had done enough in that fight as well, and it's crazy to hear you talk the way you're talking right now, considering, like, maybe we had a brief interaction after the fight. I definitely thought you didn't look yourself in there, but even at that, you still, in my opinion, did enough to kind of get the win and get the nod on that night. When you didn't, like you said, you're back in the locker room. What's going through your mind there? Obviously, you've gone from, at the start of the year, being an undefeated fighter to then dropping 2 fights in a row. It must have been very difficult to kind of come accustomed to the kind of thought process around that.
Yeah, like, I'd love someone to do an embedded series after the fights versus before the fights, because I don't think people realize, how emotional it is for people, and how upsetting, and your whole world is taken from under you. And on that night, all the other lads were winning. They went on to all win except for me. And I just remember, like, sitting down outside. It was an outdoor venue, and just not even crying. I was just didn't know what to think. I just thought, you know, maybe I'm just not cut out for this. I'm just not good enough. Because if in my head I'm having such a meltdown, how could I possibly imagine fighting really high level girls? Like, I think I'm just not cut out for this. And then I got in an Uber and I rang my mother, and sure, when I rang my mother, the tears started, and I don't think they stopped for about 24 hours. And poor, you know, John, my coach, and another coach, Dave Roach, they got plenty of tears in them 12 hours too. And they talked to me, and Alan talked to me, and, you know, they all said it'll look better in the morning, kind of thing, and we'll rebuild from here. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me. And I know, like, it would be lovely to be sitting here and say, oh, I'm unbeaten and I've got a clean record. But when those two things happened to me last year, I was at a turning point, and it was either just pack it in, or it was sort this out and get my head right. And I decided to get in contact with a mindset coach and with a psychologist, and both of them, the first session, I asked both of them two things. One, how long was it going to take for them to fix me? And two, when would I stop crying? Because crying seemed to be this thing that I couldn't stop doing since Malta. And anyway, they both said that, you know, at the moment my emotions were on really high, and that they would calm back down. And they also said they couldn't guarantee they were going to fix me, but they didn't see one part of me that wanted to give up or quit. There was no quit in me, and that as long as I had that still in me, that they could help me reach my full potential. And I really think that's what happened, and that's what I got to show in November.
Well, I think going in through that doors and talking to therapists or sports psychologists, you know, that's proven to yourself and to them that you definitely didn't want to quit. I mean, in reality, how close were you to actually packing it all in?
Like, there was about an hour in the hotel room that night where I said, like, I wanted to quit. I think there was about an hour where I wanted to quit, but I didn't do it myself. I was saying to Alan I wanted to quit because I wanted him to tell me not to quit. And, you know, he said, I love you no matter what. And no matter what, our life's not going to change. Whether you do it or you don't do it, it doesn't matter. You know, we're still going to have Relentless. We still have our life. So he wouldn't tell me not to quit, or he put it back on me. And I think once that hour finished and I got out of the room and walked around the hotel for a while, I was like, no fucking way am I quitting. It's like, no way. I was like, this is the time where people throw in the towel. And I've been here so many times before in my life. I've had hard times. I don't need to do that now. And if I fall flat on my face and I lose the next 5 fights, I don't care. I'm not quitting. I'm going to keep persisting. And then there was about a month of crying after that. It wasn't like it just all fixed itself or anything.
Yeah, you know, it's crazy the emotions that someone goes through. Like, and no, it's great to have that support network around you with Alan and everybody, obviously family as well. But maybe to kind of go back to Coach John Kavanagh and to Dave as well, you know, those are two guys who've been there and done that and seen it before loads of times with fighters as well. What kind of advice or encouragement are John and Dave giving you in those moments when you are feeling emotional and wanting to pack it all in?
You know, they both said the same things. Like, I thought, because I'm a very direct black and white person, I thought it would be as much as we'll do A, B, and C, and that'll mean equals D or whatever. But it wasn't. It was, they both said the same thing, that why did you get into the sport? What do you love about the sport? Why are you doing this? You need to figure that out. And then you need to fall back in love with the sport, that you just seem so fatigued and you know, vulnerable at the moment, that I struggled a lot for like a year and a half with illness, and illness is still like probably my biggest opponent, and my immune system, and that definitely made me more vulnerable and a bit less of a resilient person. So they both said the same thing. It was all about mindset. It was, why are you doing this? What do you love about the sport? Do you still love the sport or not? You need to figure that out. And they both said similar things to Alan, that they thought I was a great person, and that they, you know, I needed to do it for me. And that they weren't going to push me either way. You know, John has always said he thinks that I can hang with the best girls in the world when I have a smile on my face and I'm loving what I'm doing, and I just keep going forward and I keep trucking on and taking people down and going for it. But the minute he sees, you know, weakness or me taking back steps or second guessing myself, that's not the Danny that he says he's seen in the IMAFs years ago. So he always brings that up. He said that 2017 Danny knew no fear, and he said that Danny is world class, and that he said when we get back to that place, that person won't be best, and that person can be the best in the world. So after November, you know, he said, I think the 2017 Danny's back. And
when did you feel that that 2017 Danny was back? Was it the training session? Was it the sparring session? Was it during one of the sessions you did with the sports psychologist? Like, when did that kind of downturn turn into an upturn for you?
Like, it was probably only the last few weeks coming up to the fight. It was just the fight was getting closer and closer, and I felt like I was getting stronger and more resilient in my mind, and I was training really hard, and I felt good on the mat. And I think about 3 or 4 weeks before the fight, I just said, you know what, I just don't care anymore. I don't care about making mistakes. I don't care, you know, about pressure. I don't care about winning and losing, because this is what the psychologist and the mindset guy kept saying to me. You just have to not care and just enjoy yourself. And I was listening to upbeat music driving into the gym and had a big smile on my face, and I was flying around on my back on the mat and jumping on people's backs and doing things I'd never do, you know, that I would stick to the plan. I'm really good at sticking to the plan, but I started just having fun and not caring if it meant, well, I'll end up in a bad position now, just not caring and enjoying myself. And I felt totally free then. And then when the fight came around, I knew myself, right, this really is make it or break it. It could be 3 losses in a row. This could be a huge turning point in my career. And this is the most important fight of my life. And finally, I don't care. I don't care. I got into fighting because I like going at people. I like aggression. I like violence. I like taking people down. I love elbowing people in the face. I love to see blood. I love all this shit. And then from those fights in Bellator and the 3 Arena, something happened where I started to care, and I started to carry all this pressure, and I forgot that I loved all that stuff. All I thought about was getting to the end of the 15 minutes and hopefully my hand was raised, and that everyone still thought, oh, Danny Nealon's someone to talk about. But now that's all gone. I'm just here to have fun now.
Yeah, it's crazy. And it's great to hear you say that as well. As I have to ask you, and we'll talk about the Maria Mazzar fight as well. What's the, you know, you say you're going to the gym, you're listening to music. What's the song of choice now when you're en route to Relentless or you're en route to SBG up there to do some sparring? What are you getting yourself pumped up listening to?
What do you think?
I have no idea, Danny. I have no idea. I'm very curious. I'm very curious.
Whatever you think, I'd say you're going to be wrong.
Like, I'd be thinking something like Rage Against the Machine or something like that.
No, at the far end, the other end of the scale. So like as pop as you can go, like One Direction, the Saturdays, all the cheesy stuff. One Direction was blaring all fight week. Like, I went to a One Direction concert and I wrote 1D on my face and everything when I was like older than them at the time. I'm a massive One Direction fan. I can't believe I'd forgotten that, and I refound them in that camp. So it's all the pop, it's all the cheese, happiness.
I love it. En route to laying down some serious violence as well. They got to pop it out. Respect to that. That's funny. Look at the Maria Mazzar fight. It was a question you had mentioned at the start of this interview. You know, you're in the company of a lot of other fellow strawweights on the night of Invicta 50. And you've said it already, you believe that you performed the best out of all of those strawweights on the night. And you really, truly believe that. And, you know, I thought it was a pretty good performance. And I thought it was the best on the night when I was looking on as well. how did you feel about that performance? Obviously, it was like a completely different fighter in there in comparison to what I seen against Manuela. How long did it take you? Obviously, you're going to have the nerves, you're going to have the normal things before a fight, and it's now time to put all the work into action. You got settled in, you landed that big right hand, and it must have been off to the races after that. Did that kind of give you that little boost of confidence when you hurt Maria early days and kind of set the tone for the rest of the fight?
Well, it's the big left hand. It's always the big left hand. Yeah. Yeah. So, like, the minute the fight started, I just felt totally different. I felt like how I spar. I didn't like feel the nervous energy of her, or I didn't feel nervous myself. I just felt like grounded into the floor, chin down. I could see everything. I was reacting to everything, and I got confident really quick in the fight. I just felt like I was in the gym, and I haven't experienced that much. I think that when I fought in Germany, I felt a bit like that. That was the only time I can recall feeling the same way. And I realized, you know, she was nervous and she didn't really know how to take the fight or what to do. And she was pretty easy to hit then and pretty easy to damage. So, you know, I was unlucky not to finish her in the first round. But again, super positivity. I'm actually really happy that I didn't finish in the first round, because she got on my back in the second round and she brought the fight to me, and that really showed me I did want to be in that fight, and I was 100% there and wanting to fight and wanting to do all of this. And I'm happy I went through that adversity. And then in the third round, it was like, yes, 1-1. Like, I love it. Let's go. Who wants it more? You know, I love this shit. So it was just a brilliant fight for me, because it brought everything. And I hope when I'm in the world title fight, I don't do that. I feel like I do that a little bit, that like I'll be up and then I'll be doing something silly, and then I'm like, oh, we're level now. Let's see who's the best. You know,
Yeah.
I think I'm playing out like a Rocky movie in my head.
you had open scoring in that fight, is that right?
Yeah.
How did you find that as a fighter? Did you find it beneficial to you to know the score? Obviously it's beneficial to you, but do you prefer knowing the score? Do you prefer not knowing the score? Because, I mean, if you're there and you find out, you know, you won round one, you've lost round two, it kind of adds that little bit of extra pressure. Does it make you fight a little bit differently knowing the scores in there?
Well, like I love knowing the scores. That's my personality. I think that's great. But actually, in reality, you don't find out the score till 5 seconds before the fight starts again. So as I'm getting up off the stool, they hold up an iPad to Alan or to whoever's in the corner, and then they look at the iPad and then they look at you and they say, we're up that round, and that's it. And the minute they say they're up that round, next thing you're standing right in front of the person again. So you don't have time to think about it. But I knew I was up the first round and I knew I had lost the second round. So it really didn't matter. But it will matter in this title fight with 5 rounds. It's going to be super important to know the scores and to know like you're chipping away at all those rounds. And there'll be no big surprise then at the end. Like I like that. That's positive for me.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, for sure. And it's very interesting to watch on as well. Look, you got a close look at Valesca on that night. She fought twice in the one night as part of the strawweight tournament. What did you kind of take away from getting to see her up close and personal? And, you know, what kind of a challenge do you think that she's going to offer you in the title fight coming up on March 15th?
Yeah, so first of all, she's smaller than me. I know that from standing beside her. She's strong, she's wide, you know, she's got broad shoulders. I seen her hitting the pads backstage. She looks good, but she stands still and doesn't really move around a lot on the pads. But then when she fights, she's totally different. So she stands up real tall, like she's taller than she is, and she fights on the back foot and she moves a lot. Likes to use her space, likes to counter strike. And if she's under pressure, she'll shoot an odd takedown and hold you down. You know, I was totally like wound up going into my own fight, excited looking at that strawweight tournament, because I was like, these girls, like, what are these girls at? These girls are going to become world champions. Like, any of them could be world champion. Come on, you got to go out and get the fight. I didn't feel like any of them were like fighting like they're about to be world champion. They were fighting like they knew they had a second fight coming. And yeah, like I think she's a good striker. I think she's able to grapple. She's strong, but I think I'm better. And you know what? I know I'm better, and I know I have so much cardio. Like, since when I was an amateur fighter, John told me, I can't wait until you have 5-minute rounds because people are not going to be able for your pace. And now, the minute I started fighting as a pro, he says, I can't wait until you have a title fight because I'm sprinting towards the end of a fight. I'm not the most explosive person in the world. You know, no, I'm Irish, I'm white. But I sure as hell have a crazy amount of cardio, and I just don't really get tired. And if I do, and you give me a little bit of time to recover in my corner, I'm back, you know, bright as a button again.
Yeah.
So I think that's the winning of the fight for me. And I do think I'm going to become a world champion. I just need to put the work in now and keep this self-belief in myself. And I really do think I'm the better fighter.
Yeah, 100%. It's going to be great to see you getting in there and competing as well. But what are some of the main problems you think you're going to give to Valesca? Is it that pace? Are you going to look to try and set that pace and see if she can maintain it over 5 rounds? You're not, like you said, you're not probably too focused on going out there and getting an early finish. Would you prefer to take her into deep waters and see if she can sink or swim, or what's your kind of thought process? Although we're very early into the camp right now, so I mean,
yeah. Well, like, without giving away like too much of the game plan, I want to do 25 minutes. Even if it was a different fighter, I want to go 25 minutes. I want every bit of this. And I want to know I've done 25 minutes and I'm the champion. I want that. And I want that person to come through 25 minutes with me. And if they're still standing there and they outscored me or whatever it is, then that's fine. But I want every bit of this. So that's my number one strategy is we're going 25 minutes and we're going a Danni McCormack pace. We ain't tipping along, going backwards, throwing a few counter strikes.
Yeah, 100%. What are the feelings? What's the thought process right now at this early stage? Is it excitement? Is there a different feel around this camp already because it's like a title shot that you're facing as well? Obviously, as the camp will go on, you'll get more zoned in, you'll get more focused, and the blinkers will come on a little bit per se. What's the feelings right now?
Yeah, like the camp is set out. You know what's happening every week is set out. So I'm just following that really. Like John has worked out what it is he wants me to do with Alan, and we're following that. We spent one night celebrating me getting the title shot. When I say celebrating, like we didn't do anything other than like to ring my family and get excited about it. And then I said to Alan and my brother, because 2 of them can get very excited about things for me, that's it now. The excitement is gone. We're not going to get carried away with ourselves. And when I have that belt, I can milk it then, and I'll go on my my world tour with my belt then. But until then, we're now no more hype, no more excitement. You know, it's hard to stop me smiling. I've been smiling every day through training camp. But yeah, I'm not thinking about any second past the first spell. You know, that's what I'm thinking about now, getting myself prepared for that. So everything is on point already. My diet, my training, my sleep, all of it, my recovery. I've got like a system for every single thing, and we're not missing a beat. We're well up with time with the camp, and it's just hopefully going to be plain sailing between now and the fight. And if it's not, and I get sick or I get injured, that's no different to any other fight camp. Like every single fight camp, I have a list of injuries that happened, and a list of illnesses that happened. So I'm well accustomed to that. I perforated my eardrum 4 weeks before fighting Maria Mazar in November, and I didn't spar for those 4 weeks because I had a perforated eardrum.
Yeah, that's nasty. I had one of those myself before. Yeah, it's a nasty injury, and I got vertigo and everything from that as well. So it's that's a pretty nasty one that I got. Look, I know you don't want to look too far ahead, but just say everything goes to plan, and you get your hand raised, you're going to be the champion. That will ultimately lead to having a target on your back, Danny. And look, at obviously we don't have to look too far away from home for people that want to fight you. I know Sean O'Bannon has had a lot to say recently. She was on with me and she was expressing interest in fighting you. You've stayed relatively quiet around the whole subject. What's kind of your thought process around all of that, and Shauna wanting to fight you? And would you have an interest in possibly fighting her down the line?
Yeah, so as I said earlier on in the interview, when I got the offer to sign with Invicta, my sights was set on the belt, and I had that opportunity with being the reserve in the tournament. And after the fight, when Shannon told me, you know, she couldn't see why I wasn't going to get the title shot, I had no reason to be saying anything. All I did was sit back and concentrate on my title shot and focus on myself. And you know, and a nice little byproduct of it all was I got loads of followers on Instagram. So I'll take that as a win. But look, I'm not into rivalries. I'm not into calling people out. I had a bit of crack one day and called out Valerie Lareda, but you know, it was more a joke than anything else. That's not who I am. I'm focused on what's in front of me and progressing as a person as well as a fighter. And that's what I want to be remembered for. And yeah, it was good character building for me to have a target on my back and have people talking about me. But I was really just focused on that belt. And look, in March, whoever becomes the winner, there's a line of contenders already. The fights that happened on Wednesday night, you know, there's Fatima Klein there that has already called out the winner of our fight, and Karolina Wojcik, I fought her before as an amateur, so she's calling out the winner too. So there's a line of girls, line of strawweights there wanting to fight the winner. So, you know, I have to win the belt first, and after that I'll think about what's happening next. But I'm sure I won't be in control of any of it. And all those girls that are lining up and calling for the belt, you know, fight each other, put on a great performance, whatever it takes. And if you're in my direct pathway, I will fight you. But am I interested in clickbait stories, in human interest fights, in talking shit, in made up rivalries, all of that? Am I interested in any of that? No, absolutely not. I'm concentrating on myself. And that's the way I've always been, and I'll continue being.
Indeed. I mean, personally, I think it would be a fantastic domestic fight between you and Shauna. Not to harp on about it all that much. And I mean, look at there. You've trained together before. You've grappled and everything like that. Like, if it was to come to fruition, how would you think it would happen? Would Shauna need to win a few more fights, in your opinion? Or if she got a good win in her next fight, like if Invicta labeled that down on the table, Ireland versus Ireland, Danni McCormack versus Sean O'Bannon for the Invicta title, is that the one that gets you most excited, or is there other more exciting fights in Invicta for you right now? Like, I mean, both of you are there, both of you are in the same division. It's kind of a little bit unavoidable at the same time as everything else.
You know, I'm excited for whoever the best contender is at the time. I'm excited for the hardest fights, for the best girls. And it's not a thing of, you know, who's got this, who's got that, or who's the better fighter, all this kind of like, you know, chatter in the background. I guess not like blowing my own trumpet here, but I am a little bit. I'm really proud of myself that I got this title shot. You know why I got this title shot? Because of the people I fought. I went 5-0 against really high level opponents, and Jude Samuel kept putting a better girl in front of me, and I kept beating them. And at the time when I went 5-0, I was from SBG, and I was fighting on a massive show in Bellator where there was loads of people winning on the same night. And it really went unnoticed that a female fighter in Ireland was going 5-0. And the only people speaking about me was Sean Sheehan, was Graham, was yourself. Every now and then you give me a shout out. You wouldn't miss giving me a shout out. And I really appreciate that, lads. But I put a serious amount of work in to get to this position. I wasn't throwing a bone with this title shot. I earned every second of it. So I'm only interested in who's the best person for me to fight. Who's going to make me a better person after I fought that person, whether I win or lose. I want the highest level opponents. And I don't need to talk about who that might be. Show me. I have the title shot. I have to beat Valesca Machado. And after I fight Valesca Machado and I win, show me who's the best contender. And until then, I really don't care. And I understand why Irish people are into human interest fights and there's a bit of drama. There's actually no drama. It's all make-believe. No drama at all whatsoever. I have been so supportive of all the Irish girls' careers all the way along. I followed them all. I've commented under their posts. I've gone up to their coaches and said, you're doing unreal with this girl. I'm all for bringing each other along, for training together, for sparring together. But I'm one of the only people that's doing that. And I'm the one getting called out. So, you know what? Let's see who's the best contender. And that's the end of it. And do you know what? While I have the opportunity, I'll keep going. But,
please.
When after November, you and Quilsha and maybe Graham and Sean, you were mentioning maybe Danny will get the title shot now. Danny should get the title shot now. And unfortunately, everyone else in the Irish media were jumping on this clickbait story because it was fun and it was interesting and it was drama. Not because it was what the right thing was for me or what's the right thing for Irish MMA. It's to get another world champion. Not many people posted, tweeted, mentioned me in stories about calling for the title shot, but they did all of those things about something else. So that's disappointing, but that's a good lesson for me to learn that you got to look out for yourself. You got to promote yourself because at the end of the day, people don't really care if I become a world champion or not, but I sure as hell do.
100%. Very well said. Danny, one more before we let you go. I really appreciate the time as always. You have the chance to become the first Irish champion in Invicta FC history. You have a chance to do it on the day of your birthday as well. All the silver linings are lining up for you. I want to ask, obviously there's plenty of work to do. You have got to go in there, you've got to perform, but what would it mean to you as a person who wants to portray themselves as a good role model? And I think you do a fantastic job to the younger kids and the younger generations and the fighters, down in Relentless and also your work with IMA as well. What would it mean for you to be able to bring a belt back to all of those people and back to Relentless Martial Arts and to Alan and to John and to Dave and everybody who's been around you and supported you and helped you kind of get into this position?
I just think it's meant to be. Like, I don't believe in God and I don't believe in karma or any of that, but I just feel like it's meant to be for me that, I spent a long time in the horse racing industry and in the horse industries, and it didn't go where I wanted it to go. And I fought for a world title in the IMAFs, and I feel like I really underperformed that day, and the moment got to me, and I became the bridesmaid, and I got the silver medal, and I cried every second of the fucking podium when I sat there with that medal on me. So, you know what? I just feel like it's meant to be for me now, that this is a part of my legacy, a part of my journey to become a world champion. And not just because it's gonna sound nice and all that, but I put in an awful lot of work, and there's so many people around me that put a lot of work into me. And I'm a really, really good fighter. I'm not a hard luck story. I'm not like the underdog. I'm not that person anymore. I am a really, really good fighter. And not many people can beat me. I've shown that. And I think this is my time. And I think if I get that belt and I get to bring it home to my family and to my coaches and teammates, it just shows all the work that's gone in the last 8 years. And I'll be really, really proud of myself, because I got into this sport for mental health reasons and anxiety. And I don't think there's many sports that creates as much anxiety as this does.
100%.
So I feel like I won. Like, I feel like I bet it. But, if it doesn't happen and it doesn't plan out and I don't get the belt, I'm still going to be really happy and proud of myself, because I know I'm going to put on the best performance of my life and I'm going to perform to my fullest. And if it's good enough, I'm going to become a world champion. And we're going to find that out in 7-8 weeks' time.
100% we're going to find that out. March 15th is the date. Invicta 52 is the event in Denver, Colorado, in a couple of weeks' time. Danny, we wish you all the best in your preparations for Valesca Machado. It's going to be a fantastic fight. I'm really looking forward to seeing it. It's going to be on a really good time for me over here in Canada. It'll be on a little bit early, I'd say, in the morning for all of our Irish fans, but I'm sure a lot of people are going to get up and watch it and support you along the way as well. I just want to say I really appreciate the time, as always, that you give to me, Danny, and I wish you all the best in your preparations and for the fight itself. And hopefully the next time that we're talking, I know you're going to engross yourself into the camp now. There's going to be a big shiny belt around your shoulder, around your waist, and I look forward to that time as well.
Thanks so much, Ian, and thanks for all the time you've given to me over the years, through the ups and the downs. You've always, had my back and sent me messages and checked I was okay after winning and losing. So I really appreciate that, and you and the other SevereMMA boys that I mentioned today. That I can't thank you enough for being with me throughout this journey. And fair play to you. You're doing great things for Irish MMA media.
As are you, Danny. It's always a pleasure, and we'll speak to you down the line. Thank you so much.
Daddy, thanks, Ian.
Thank you for watching this video on SevereMMA.com. For more wonderful content, please click the like, subscribe and notification bell, and follow us on these social medias.